Okay, good evening. This meeting of the Galt Joint Union Elementary School District Board of Education is hereby called to order. Would you please stand and join us in the flag salute? There was no action taken in closed session tonight. We will now move to item D, board meeting protocol. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Silva. Good evening. Thank you for your patience with us tonight. This is our first full in-person board meeting since March of 2020. Hard to believe. New technology for us, and so we are all getting situated here. I would like to go over our board meeting protocol for full person and meeting. This meeting is being recorded. The meeting is open to the public. The meeting is being broadcast live through a Zoom teleconference. For public comment tonight, public comment is 3 minutes per agenda item, and the board shall limit the total time for public comment for each agenda item up to 20 minutes. With board consent, the board president may increase or decrease time allowed for public comment. Regular board meetings shall be adjourned by 10:30 p.m. There are 2 ways for public comment tonight. The first was email public comment that were sent to superintendent at the Galt email 24 hours before the board meeting. Those will be read loud tonight by a facilitator. Email public comment is limited to 450 words. Tonight also, you can speak public comment in person by completing a public comment form indicating the item that you wish to address and give to the board meeting assistant, Ms. Bach. And those public comment cards are at the door when you come in. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. Finally, board vote and connectivity. For action items, the motion will be followed by a roll call vote. Should a board member attend the meeting remotely and lose connectivity by teleconference or by phone, the meeting will be delayed 5 minutes before reconvening, and we do have a board member that will be with us tonight via Zoom. Mr. Silva.
Well, I'd also like to point out that board member Casey Roy is not present tonight.
And I also would like to point out that following the new CDC guidelines just issued yesterday, we are recommending, it is just a recommendation that masks be worn indoors, regardless of vaccination status. And we do have students present as well tonight. So cabinet and board, we are wearing our masks.
Thank you. Can we move on to item E, communications? National Night Out.
Thank you. National Night Out is an annual community building campaign that promotes police community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie. Our district will have an informational table at this night, August 3rd, from 6 to 8. We will be at the Galt softball complex and also at the Galt Community Park. I want to thank our directors, Cleo Del Toro Adriano and Donna Whitlock, for helping me out. We will be positioned at both those parks to support the community and our police department.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, now moving on to item F, reports. LCAP Goal 1, item 1, public health guidance for schools in California 2021-22 school year and safe return to in-person instruction plan ESSER 3.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Silva. We do have public comment for this item. I would like to, if it's okay with you, I'd like to give a report first, and then we will open up to public comment.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Ms. Bach, thank you. We do have a PowerPoint presentation, and as well as it's in your board packet as well. Well, I want to start by saying that I'm very, very excited that we are tonight talking about opening up the new school year that will be fully in person and for a full day. We're 22 days away from the start of the school year. We're going to share with you tonight the new California Department of Public Health guidelines that have been issued for K-12 schools. I also want to point out the foundation principle to these new guidelines is that all students must have access to safe and full person instruction. That is our goal, and that is the goal of the state. CDPH states that masks are one of the most effective and simplest safety mitigation layers to prevent in-school transmission of COVID-19. And again, we want to stay in school. There's two main reasons that CDPH is recommending, or actually, I'm sorry, it's not recommending, mandating masks in schools. One is that it is impossible to socially distance when you have everybody on school at campus at once. And they know that, and they want us to be able to reopen, and we can't social distance at 3 feet or even 6 feet if all of our students are on campus. And so that is one of the number one reasons why masks are mandatory. The second is the potential detrimental impacts of having different mask policies. For example, the potential stigma, bullying, isolation of vaccinated or unvaccinated students, depending on the culture and attitudes in the school or the surrounding community. CDPH has told us, or has stated, that they will continue to update these guidelines based on conditions. No later than November 1st of 2021, we should have new updates for us. We can go to the next slide. So masks. The guidelines are, I think I'm just still on slide 2, page 2. So masks are optional for outdoors for all students and staff. They are not required outdoors. So at recess, coming on campus, playing with your friends, you do not have to wear a mask. Students and staff are required in a K-12 school setting indoors to wear a mask, following these guidelines. We'll talk a little bit later about eating in cafeteria in future slides, but we do not need to mask in the cafeteria when we're eating, but we'll talk a little bit about that. There are some exemptions to face masks due to medical conditions. And an exemption also may be a face shield with a drape. We are required to provide masks to students that need them. We will provide disposable masks, and we will also provide face shields with drapes for students that would rather wear that. We are required to enforce this. Our plans for enforcement would be to be consistent with this. We need to be consistent at all of our school sites. We need to be consistent in all of our classrooms. We are meeting with our school administrators on Monday to talk about this. We are not going to expect our teachers to handle this in the classroom. Our thoughts at this time, and again, I apologize, administrators, we haven't even talked to you about these details yet, but I think it's important to point out to you tonight, and I think you would agree. Say we have a student that comes in the classroom without a mask. We won't know when a child comes on campus if they have a mask on, or if they have a mask or not, because we are not requiring masks outside. We don't have to. Say a child comes into the classroom and the child is not masked. We do not want to single anybody out. We don't want to embarrass a child. What we would ask that a teacher would call administration, and that our administrator would personally call that family and have the conversation with the family. We'll move forward more in our presentation and talk more about that, and we'll hear public comment about that, but I want to make sure that's clear too. We want this to be a positive experience coming back to school. We don't want to burden our teachers with this, but we want to do what we have to do to keep kids and staff safe. So that at this time, I know that's a question for you. How are you going to enforce this district? That is our plan at this time, is that our administration and our district administration would help counsel families and come up with an accommodation. We are required to provide an alternate educational program, and we have that in place. We have the Bright Future Learning Home Learning Academy. It is similar to an independent study program. We have one teacher in that program right now. We are seeking another teacher. So we will provide alternative education if we cannot come up with accommodation for a child not wearing a mask. I'll go over quickly some of the next slides because a lot of this hasn't changed. It's still recommended that we all, including students and staff, that we stay home when we are sick at least 24 hours since your fever has passed and other symptoms have improved, or if you have a negative COVID test, that really has not changed. And we are going to ask families to self-screen at home before sending their child to school. What has changed are some of the quarantine or isolation requirements. There's differences now between a vaccinated individual and an unvaccinated individual. We have some slides here for you. If you have been exposed to COVID and you're fully vaccinated, the chances are you do not have to quarantine because the risk of infection is low. If there is exposure with students that are unvaccinated, which we know most of the students in our district, just due to the age, we know are not vaccinated. If you have a mask on and you're exposed, you may still continue to come to school. If you're asymptomatic, you continue to wear a mask. It is recommended that you rapid test twice weekly for 10 days. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But they are recommending that you quarantine for all extracurricular activities, and the goal is to keep you in school. If the student is exposed to COVID, they're not vaccinated and they did not have a mask on. So say this happens on our playground or this happens in our cafeteria. If you're asymptomatic, you need to quarantine 10 days from the exposure. If you're asymptomatic, you need to quarantine. And if you have a negative test, you can come back after 7 days after the negative test. This is something new because, again, if somebody is exposed or somebody has symptoms, whether it be a student or a staff member, we want to try to keep you at work. We want to try to keep you at school. Donna Biglock, our educational services director and our health service department, we are in process right now of getting rapid test kits at our school sites. Definitely, this would be with parent consent, but we want to have rapid tests available. So if there is an exposure or somebody has symptoms, we can find out quickly if they have COVID or not, and then you potentially would be able to stay at work or stay at school if negative. So this is definitely new. Cleaning recommendations, this has not changed. We will be cleaning once a day, thoroughly cleaning once a day, at least once a day in the evening. One thing that we have eliminated is the cleaning of classrooms in the middle of the day because we no longer will be on the AM/PM model. Two cohorts of students will be the same students in the classroom. Food service. Students will be in the cafeteria for lunches. We are going to be 3 feet apart in the multi-purpose rooms. We do not have to require a mask when students are eating. We are going to use outdoor spaces as much as possible to spread students out. We are going to, as much as possible, have one grade level at a time in the cafeteria. This will help us with contact tracing too, so there is an exposure while students are unmasked. We want to try to get a normal cafeteria lunch experience, breakfast experience as well for our students. Visitor recommendations. It is recommended that non-essential visitors are not coming on campus at this time. We should and will have access for direct service providers for our students in our classrooms. It's also recommended that we do not hold non-essential large events such as rallies, festivals, dances, etc. We're waiting for more guidance on activities such as band, drama, and music. That should be coming here before school starts. Transportation, thankfully, we will be able to transport more students. Since the social distancing requirements have relaxed, students will be wearing a mask on the bus, and we will load our buses to normal capacity. Windows will be open, and we'll be cleaning the buses throughout the day. Finally, moving on here, one of the last slides talks about what kind of masks are acceptable. And this really has not changed from the California Department of Health. They have recommendations on what's most effective and what is least effective for a mask. They are stating that 2-layer cotton masks or bandanas or gaiters are considered a least effective mask. We are going to be allowing students to wear a mask of their choice as long as it's covering their mouth and their nose. Just as we did during the summer program or when we were back in school in the spring. But we are required to notify you of what's most effective and least effective. Lawmaker contacts. We had a lot of questions about this, and I understand where this is coming from too. I'm a parent as well, and I work in obviously public school education. We have consulted with our legal team. We've consulted with the County Office of Education. We've consulted with Sacramento County Department of Health and Schools Insurance Authority. Do we have to mandate this? If we don't mandate this, we lose our school insurance authority. They would not cover us if something were to happen to a student or a staff member if we were not following these guidelines. Legal counsel as well has talked to us and the board about the ramifications if we were to choose to not follow these mandates. We put the district at risk. Again, our number one goal is to have kids at school all day. And the route right now, what we have been told we must do to do that is to mandate masks. So we have provided for you how to contact our governor, how to contact Sacramento County Public Health, and also the California Department of Public Health. Board President, Mr. Silva, board members, at this time, this concludes the report on the new guidance.
Okay, thank you very much, Superintendent Yao. At this time, we will be accepting public comments. We're going to begin with the written public comment, the emails that we've received, and then we'll be allowing for public comment. The board, we agree that we'll allow up to 45 minutes total time for public comment. At that point in time, if we feel the need to extend it beyond that, we'll make that decision at that point in time based on the number of people that want to talk tonight. And by the way, thank you all very much for showing up tonight. we really do appreciate that. We value your input, so we're glad that you're here. So we'll see if we need to go beyond 45 minutes. At that point in time, we'll make that decision, but we'll try and keep it to that point. So if you would, Superintendent Young, please go ahead and begin reading public comment that has been sent to us.
Thank you. I have 5 public comments that I will read for you. First one is from parent Christy Ward. I've read through the packet for Wednesday's meeting. I am dissatisfied that our school district plans to follow the CDPH guidelines. I do not support this. The use of a face mask should always be a parent decision. Masks have been very harmful to my children's mental health and many others across the state. My hope is that our school board recognizes the psychological damage this has done and does not enforce mask wearing, but allows for choice. This is my request for the health and well-being of my children. It is not the state's decision to choose this for my children. This is my choice for my children. Please stand up for my children and the many others in our community that would like mask choice. Suggesting mask choice is an easy solution. I am requesting mask choice to be an agenda item for the next school board meeting. As well, I am requesting a special meeting date to be determined prior to the start of school year to discuss this matter. Thank you, Christy Ward. This is from a teacher, Galen Gomez, in our district. Good evening. I want to start by thanking you for the opportunity to work in person with children again. I am one of the teachers who chose to teach during summer session, and it was wonderful to once again be with my students. They were happy, engaged, and we were all joyous to once again be together in somewhat more normal circumstances. Having said that, I know this board and management team are looking at how school will look in the 21-22 school year beginning very soon, in less than 1 month's time. I would ask that you please listen to the experts on this subject, the doctors and scientists, and follow their guidance and recommendations. Thank you for your time, and thank you for looking out for Galt students, staff, and families. Galen Gomez, Valley Oaks Elementary. This is from a parent, Mary Gillespie. Hello, Superintendent Yacht. Thank you for giving parents an opportunity to discuss with you their questions and concerns around the 21-22 school year. My daughter will be returning to Greer this school year for 5th grade. As a parent that decided to keep my daughter home with the GLE program last year, I have new concerns about the return to school with COVID-19 Delta variant raging in our country now. I feel it should be 100% mandatory that everyone working on a school campus must wear a mask or face covering, regardless of vaccination status. When only 1/4 of the kids in the U.S. are vaccinated, adults should go and do the right thing, protect the children that are vulnerable. I have been fully vaccinated since March, and I never stopped wearing my mask because I know it was the responsible thing to do for all kids and people that couldn't be vaccinated. Unfortunately, a lot of misinformation has gone around the past 18 months, and many individuals refuse to wear a mask to protect their kid, let alone my kid. I fear these same individuals will send their children to school sick in the upcoming months, and the only thing protecting my child is her mask and physical distancing. Thank you for hearing me out. Shalene Cook. From Shalene Cook, I believe Shalene is a parent. I just want to put my 2 cents in for the elementary school district for this upcoming school year. Rumors have gone around stating that my children may have to continue wearing masks inside. I am not just putting my voice out there and stating that it's absolutely ridiculous. These are out there that parents do not wash masks on a daily, regular basis with their coughing and their boogers and their slobber, etc. They come through those masks. I don't see how sanitary and safe that really keeps the children. I also know that if this is the case, you will lose students to homeschooling. Again, just putting my voice out there. Thank you, Shalene. And our final comment from email. Well, this is from Emily Sanders, a parent. Welcome and thank you for your service to our community superintendent. I have a 2nd grader and a TKer who will be attending Lake Canyon this fall. I am writing because I have been looking forward forward to my kids returning to a normal school year in just a few weeks. I have been hopeful all summer that they would also not be required to wear a face covering while in school grounds. I am terrified in light of the recent potential announcements that A, the children of Gaul will not be able to return to their most needed educational experience, and B, that they will most definitely have to continue to suffer while breathing their own restricted air for 8 hours a day. I am praying and begging you to do what is right for our community. So-called leadership may be providing guidance, but I hope that if you look at the numbers instead of the news, you will see what I see. And that is this: coronavirus is a virus, and such will continue to spread from now until the end of time. We cannot change that. The death rate is such a small percentage of those affected, it is beyond ridiculous in the entire country to continue to put their lives on pause any longer. This has gone on far too long. We have an opportunity to lead and to serve our community in a huge way right now. Make the choice to do what's right. Right now, what is politically correct. Act as if the future of our children depends on it. Lead in a way that will make your community proud. Kids need to be in class full time with an option to wear a face covering as they see fit. It's a free country, end of story. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And if I can be of service in any way, please reach out to me. I am willing to serve my community as best I can. Emily Sanders.
Okay, we'll now continue with public comment for those who are now present. Ms. Bach, can you let us know? We'll actually take public comment in order that they were submitted. So, who's first up?
Thank you, Board President Silva. Our first public comment is from Ms. Brooke Shambart.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent and members of the board. My name is Brooke Shampart, and I'm a parent of a Lake Canyon student. My children have attended in Galt Elementary District since 2013. I've been tremendously satisfied with the teachers and staff as a whole, and I've always felt confident that my children were well taken care of each day. Thank you. While I recognize the public health emergency we are facing, I would ask you to consider whether masks should be required for students to wear all day long. I also realize my comments are somewhat null based on what you've spoken on prior tonight. I do not for 1 second discredit those who've lost loved ones and friends to this virus. However, when you hear the words follow the science, it is plain to see that the science does not support a mandatory mask policy for children. Recently, a study out of Ontario published the following statistic: 0.1 in 100,000 children ages 5 to 17 have been hospitalized with COVID. There are virtually no deaths in this age group outside of children with other comorbidities. I've spent over 100 hours researching the science behind the virus and the mask. Sadly, we're being misled by the powers that be, especially when it comes to our children. The argument that children must wear masks to spare their loved ones from serious illness is absolutely ludicrous. Our kids should not be in a position to worry about bringing home this virus. Children need to laugh, they need to play, they need to enjoy school, they need to smile, but most of all, they need to breathe. And I do realize this is out of your hands. Just a short amount of time spent researching will lead you to the conclusion that the risk of students wearing masks all day long will far outweigh any benefit those masks will provide. Please consider providing parents with mask choice. Some parents may wish to send their child to school wearing a mask because they believe it will keep the virus from spreading. There are far more effective means than masking to limit the spread of this virus. Let's teach our kids to be diligent with their hand washing and to avoid touching their faces in order to reduce the likelihood that they will contract or spread this virus. Please, again, I ask you to offer mask choice and let them breathe. Thank you.
Our next public comment is from Rhonda Dela Cruz.
Good evening, board members. I sat and I listened to you, and I really appreciate you, and I understand that you've worked very hard and diligently trying to really make the public understand really where you stand, where you're, or the position you're put in. One of the things that you did indicate tonight was that you have checked with your legal department, and that if you guys don't mandate it and you don't allow it to go through, that we would lose, that the school district would lose their insurance. I would like to ask that when this gets put on the agenda, that that is being put in writing and shown from the insurance company, that in fact that would really happen. Second of all, I understand that, you know, we're all worried about legal legalities, and I'm just here to just say that, you know, the board does have a lot of power. The board is making the defining decision here. And that's why all these parents are here and these children are here. Each child, each parent have their legal rights. And as because of that, I don't know, I'm just wanting to inform the board. Are you personally aware of that? I know that you're personally aware that you did take an oath, but also within that oath says that you are liable for this. So if in fact you choose to mandate this, and this is not scientifically proven, and each and every one of these parents, myself or any of these parents in here, just what is here, chooses to put you on notice, legal notice, Galt Unified School on legal notice, in the city of Galt on legal notice, you can be held personally and individually liable. What that actually means is please check with your legal department regarding this. That means that if I decide that you have violated my children's rights, my rights, I can actually take legal action against each one of you legally. And because I put you on legal notice, you will be held liable, and the school, Galt Unified School District, the city of Galt, and Galt Unified School District and the city of Galt do not pay for your attorney fees. That means you will have to stand with your own money to make sure that you can handle those legal fees. Please make sure that you understand, because what is being put out there, yes, there's a lot of false information. And as you've heard already, and if you do your due diligence, this is your obligation as a board. Do your due diligence, please, to ensure that the decision that you're making is scientifically based, not that it's just because it's whatever they're being told. Because our powers of being have not been honest with us in so many things, that this is the reason why you have people coming in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Our, our next public comment is from Kaden Ward. Our next public comment is from Christy Ward.
Okay, I'm just going to jump right in. Right now in California is one of 9 states that is forcing mask policies on its student population. 34 states have made masks optional, and 7 have banned mask mandates altogether. This is following the science. The California Department of Public Health is not willing to recognize the numerous studies and what the CDC have already confirmed: the low transmission and incredibly low risk of severe disease, long-term side effects, and death for children from COVID-19. In fact, for children, the mortality risk is substantially less than from influenza, and yet no mitigation is necessary for that. The CDPH is not recognizing studies that discuss the harm of germ-filled masks on kids, delay in social learning, and mental health risks, to name a few.
Instead, the CDPH continues to turn their back on the youth of this state and not follow the science. It is well known that in other states, masks were not worn in school, but rather other mitigation tools were utilized, such as ventilation and sanitation efforts. In these studies, it was demonstrated that this was more than enough mitigation. I say enough is enough. I will not tolerate this for my children any further. As a parent, I have made the decision to not force my children to wear a mask for their mental and physical health. From here forward, I will say no to the oppressive guidelines put forth by the CDPH. My children will come to school without a mask. Furthermore, masking should be a choice. Masking children should be a parental choice. My children are not the district's or the state's. My children are mine, and I will do what's best for them. I am aware that this school board and superintendent did not make the CDPH guidelines. I know this. These things are beyond your control. But as a school board, you now have the ability to determine how these guidelines will be enforced. That is actually on you. You have the ability to decide. Adopt a policy that truly is kind and not meant to hurt, harm, or force a child into wearing a mask, such as segregation or isolation, such as sending them home or distant learning or to a room by themselves to wait until their parent arrives. We should respect a parent's choice as well as a child's. I'm requesting a few things from the board. First, I'm requesting that this board unite to allow mask choice. Follow suit of examples from other school districts that did just this. Strongly encourage those students and staff to follow the CDPH guidelines, but ultimately focus on learning loss, not mask enforcement. Secondly, I am requesting that our school board collectively writes the California Department of Public Health, requesting that our district sets its own guidelines and follow the science. There is no reason to be put in a huge box with all the other districts in California. Third, I am requesting our school board advocate by drafting a letter to the Sacramento County Public Health and the Governor of California in support of a parent's right to choose what is best for their children, as well as encourage mask choice and control back to the local communities, our school board. Thank you, Ms. Ward. Your time is up.
Lastly, I'm requesting mask choice to be placed on as an agenda item, and with the start of school approaching, I suggest an immediate special meeting date to be set. Thank you.
Our next public comment is from Veronica Kaufman.
Good evening. My name is Veronica Kaufman. I have a rising third grader in the district. At the beginning of the pandemic, we were told to shelter in place to minimize virus transmission. Some of us did, while many did not. We were told to wear masks as an additional mitigation layer. Some of us did and continue to do so. Many did not or have stopped. We were told last year to keep our kids home the entire year. We did not feel safe in the classroom. We have been asked to vaccinate to help stop this virus from mutating and from spreading unchecked. However, only 40% of adults is fully vaccinated per the health department dashboards. And now the CDPH has mandated indoor masking to continue for all K-12 schools. Dr. Cohen, Chief of Infectious Diseases at UCD, and Dr. Kisawa, Public Health Officer, have directly informed me that the next wave of COVID is affecting younger individuals and has the potential to be more severe for those that are unvaccinated, which, as you know, currently all under 12 are. And just this morning, I read an article where 24 children were hospitalized in one hospital, 7 of which were placed in the ICU, and 4 had to be placed on ventilators. With this said, I fully expect for this district to comply with the CDPH mandate. I fully expect this district to implement a strong compliance policy and to disclose that policy to parents. After close to a year and a half of so many of us doing our civic duty and implementing every mitigation measure that we can, excuse me, our children should no longer have to shoulder the burden of this virus for those who refuse to do their civic duty by adhering to mitigation measures. We need to comply with the CDPH mandate and open our schools for in-person learning for all that are willing to mask up. Those parents that do not want to mask their children, those teachers that do not want to mask on campus, or to enforce masking in the classroom should be offered an alternative path for education off campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Our next public comment is from Annette Coons.
Good evening, board members. It's Annette Coonsey. Thank you. We learned a lot last year about the tremendous value of our public school model from a health, academic, and societal perspective. I'm here today about an equally important issue, and just as important is that our two local districts align on this issue in support of our children. Recently, school districts were given a unique opportunity. In the past, the board and school administrators felt their hands were tied on the mask issue. With the recent CDPH guidelines, hands were unbound as local enforcement of the mask requirement was placed back into the school district's purview, where it should be. As an example, several school districts in the state are beginning to determine how to best enforce given limited resources and with consideration of the detrimental effects of mask wearing. This includes a psychological effect of continuous reminders of the pandemic for a population whose risk factor is virtually non-existent. Additionally, given the public resources dedicated to vaccinating the teachers last year, who chose, the teacher's risk is also notably reduced or even effectively eradicated. The good news is students who feel it's safe to wear a mask can do so. Many private schools in certain districts have taken reasonable approaches to mask wearing. This also includes mask choice or low level enforcement. So here's the potential approach that you could take and still hold your head high. As educational leaders in our district, we are aware of all the risks that a district can face. We have given serious consideration to these risks and the need to focus our precious limited resources on items that cause the greatest risk and yield the highest benefit for our students and teachers. As of now, risks of not wearing masks do not exceed the other risks we are facing on an educational basis, such as learning loss, mental health issues, the detrimental effects of continually being reminded of the pandemic, and other general disciplinary matters. If we determine mask wearing is at the top of the priority list because of actual harms we are seeing in our district, we shall reconsider our approach. As our educators and other staff were hired for their unique and essential teaching skills that will be significantly and notably diminished should they have to actively enforce mask wearing, which I'm glad to hear you're not having them do that. Further, mask wearing also impedes the teacher's ability to share important instruction as well as the student's ability to effectively receive and retain these lessons. Therefore, it is important that the students return to normal routines to promote and support their educational success. We're also committed to prevention strategies such as sanitizing and cleaning. But mostly, in your gut and heart of hearts, do you feel like this can continue or is it time to get back to normal? When you look back in 5 years and realize what a horrible thing we did to our children and our education system, you do not want to be complicit in those actions. Please show your courage. If we don't stop it now, we may have to plan to do this forever. Adults have never asked children to bear their burden, and I'm not sure why we're doing it now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Coonsey. Our next public comment is from James Smith.
Good evening, board. First, my name is James Smith, and my children both go to Marengo, and I have a third child who will go in 2 years. Thank you for everything that you guys do for the board, and my appreciation to all the teachers who have had to endure everything that's happened over last year. Based on what the presentation earlier, I do believe that your hands are kind of tight. However, I will give you some information to hopefully sway your opinion as soon as the option is in your hands to remove the mask mandates. Based on San Joaquin and Sac counties, the two closest counties to Galt, based on their own information, 85% of all deaths involving COVID had some sort of comorbidity involved in it, meaning that there was some other underlying medical condition. The death rate for these individuals was less than 1.5%. Galt has had less than 98 cases in the last 2 months received here in the city. Unfortunately, with everything that has happened and everything that we've gone through, my own children have had a huge amount of educational loss. They have focused on this. They have gone out in public and been nervous not to have a mask, even though they were out in the open and around no one else. The social and emotional and mental fatigue and discomfort that they have had to endure through all this is the part that affects me the most. We as a society continue to say that our children are the most important commodity that we have, but again, time and time again, our actions prove otherwise. We do not put them first. We do not put their education first. In some cases, unfortunately, they always get the short end of the stick. And I would ask you as soon as you can, please remove the mask mandate and allow our children to start receiving the education that they deserve and need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Our next public comment is from Michaela Johnson.
Hello, my name is Michaela Johnson. My husband and I have 3 small children, 2 of which should be attending Lake Canyon Elementary this coming school year, but that may not be happening now. My oldest has endured the challenges that COVID presented as a TKer, kindergarten, and now starting first grade in a few weeks. As a mother, I was understanding when all of this started because we were all unsure of the risk and how to navigate life after COVID. However, standing in front of you today, I'm outraged that you are still unsure how to provide a safe and productive environment for my child that makes the masses comfortable. My hope is that you will hear my testimony and the testimonies of all the Galt families here this evening. Some may have statistics and some may have real experiences. I pray that you open your ears and your heart and really listen to what our children's needs are. I am standing in front of you telling you exactly what my child's needs are, and a lot of families in this room. I am here to speak on how the last 16 months has affected my daughter and my family. Unfortunately, my family's testimony isn't the only one of its kind in this small community, so I also hope to be the voice for those children that don't have someone here speaking on their behalf this evening. Prior to March 2020, my 6-year-old left school and would practically run to Miss Woods' class and not even look back. Although starting Zoom, my kid missed her normal routine and her friends, she still looked forward to school every morning. Fast forward to March 2021, when I had to prep and send my sweet rule-following happy kindergarten to school. I did everything I could to encourage her through the transition. I attended the Zoom informational meeting. I clarified all my questions. I bought her the cute mask. I sent her, even though I was reluctant to subject her to this insane precautions. I immediately saw a shift in my close to perfect daughter. I'm not the mom that thinks my kids are perfect, but she is pretty damn perfect. She's balanced, she's sweet, she's smart. My 6-year-old has never dealt with anxiety, has never been scared to be taken to school, has never been physically sick when I had to take her to school. Now, when I take her to school, she becomes physically ill. She actually pukes. I would take her to school because I would take her to school because she doesn't want to wear the mask and be segregated from everything she knows to be a normal school experience. Let me repeat that again. My 6-year-old would literally puke before school. And every professional that I seeked advice from would tell me that it's non-negotiable. She has to go to school, clean her up, and force her back to go. She actually puked in her mask at school one day. I actually took her to a physician and had a full workup done because her behavior and symptoms. Her diagnosis is currently a form of gastritis, which is cause for hearing herself sick. Talk about a gut punch for me and her dad. And we built her to be this confident and positive little girl, and our daughter has lost that because she is worrying about everything. This anxiety and behavior was originally only happening before and during school. It then shifted to other areas of her life. She didn't want me to drop her off at dance without me sitting in the studio
She wouldn't play softball without me in arm's reach. She wouldn't want me to leave her with her favorite people if I had to go to work. Like most mothers, my mind went in all different directions of what could cause this, and all roads led back to school and the uncertainty of the mask.
Thank you, Ms.
I'm
Johnson.
going to finish speaking. I appreciate everyone here, and I will give everyone else on the opposing side their time. Like most mothers, sorry about that. I will not make the mistake again. I will do everything in my power to make sure that I get my easygoing kid back and not rely on this board to have a backbone and stand up for what's right. I am so grateful for her teacher, Miss Woods, for going above and beyond for my kid, because if it wasn't for her, I don't know where she would be at. We as a family are now planning to change our whole lives and everything we envisioned because we don't have faith in the Galt Unified leaders. Our kids, that they have our kids' best interest at heart. My family has been patient for 16 months. We have been patient when no one would have thought this would be happening at the start of 2020 school year. We were patient when we stumbled through welcoming our kids back on campus at the beginning of 2021. And quite frankly, I've been very understanding when I entrusted my perfect child in March to you guys, and you gave her back to me with anxiety and hatred for school. Enough is enough. The precaution should be a choice. If masks protect everyone, then whoever feels the need for protecting should be wearing a mask. My child will not bully or say anything to anyone that is wearing a mask. If this school year includes masks, then my family will be forced to pull my children out of the district. We will not make this mistake again. Her mental health and her physical health outweigh the mask mandates. This experience isn't something I read. This is happening to me and my family. This isn't something I read or heard.
Mrs. Johnson, please, your time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Sarah Hudson. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Hudson. I have 2 elementary school children within Galt Unified School District. I come here tonight with concerns for the return of normalcy for our children and to let them have the choice to breathe freely. It has been 495 days since our children were told that they had to shelter in place for 2 weeks. Their lives and social development has been paused. For 495 days, children have been wearing masks inside and outside, have struggled through 10 months of distance learning, and were taken away from all of their sports and extracurricular activities. For months, parks were closed. Major depressive episodes have increased among adolescents by 13.23%, which is 401,000 children just in California. Our elementary students are 22 days away from another school year, and little has changed. 495 days, and us parents have little to say over what our children are allowed to do. The Galt Unified School District has decided our students to return full-time and with masks indoors, even though our state said it's up to the individual districts. The school district has made up their minds about our children without even asking the parents. The school district is taking orders and recommendations from a governor who doesn't wear a mask during his 6-minute indoor speeches. I wonder if that is because it is hard for the public to hear him with a mask on. Now imagine him being a teacher speaking to 24 students for 6+ hours every day. 93% of communication is based on body language. According to studies, about 55% of nonverbal communication is facial expressions, key with development in young children, even more so with shy children and children that don't know how to express themselves effectively. Masks diminish the ability to properly communicate, and anxiety is higher, not knowing everyone's feelings or intentions. And today, when I read the agenda, there was nothing on here to discuss this. As parents, we already worry about the physical, psychological, and social health of our children. This happened long before COVID ran through. I take full responsibility on keeping my children home when feeling ill. Maybe we should be focusing more on that rather than enforcing our children to continue to hide their healthy faces.
On a personal note, if this future school year brings mask mandates, more regulations affecting recess and social interactions, which are equally important, if not more, to our children's development, then my husband and I have decided we will be pulling our children from this district so that we can show our children it is possible to give them whole care and education during unprecedented times. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hudson. Our next public comment is from Martha Vilma.
Hello, board. Thank you very much, first of all, for continuing to provide a safe and productive environment for our kids. I know we have a lot of online educated experts, but when it comes down to it, I'm glad that you are listening to the real experts, the ones that have decades of experience in the field, the ones whose names are on textbooks that doctors have been using for decades. It is very important to look at the vaccination rate, the case count in the areas that may be allowing masks to be optional. In one district in particular, their vaccination rate is 70% plus. They've had a total of 89 cases total since the beginning of this pandemic. Here in Hull, we stand at just about 42%, 98 cases in just the last 30 days, 34 cases in the last week, 2,950 cases total. Nothing compared to those areas that may be allowing it optional, of course, before this new CDC recommendation. We all missed the games over the last year. Last year, I had one graduate from high school, one promote from 8th grade, and one promote from 6th grade. A school that all of my 7 kids went to. I am friends with all the staff and faculty there. I did not get to go attend the 6th grade promotion there, which completely broke my heart, but it's what we had to do to keep everybody safe. My kids have also suffered and have been bored and even depressed. And now here we are 3 cats later because I wanted to keep them happy. We all do what we have to do. We don't do it for I don't wear my mask for the anti-maskers, for those who chose not to get a vaccine. I do it for the immune compromised, like the teacher that I work with. I could not live with myself if I knew that I had in any way contaminated her, because I know that even though I am fully vaccinated, I can't get it and I can pass it to her. My chances of surviving it are great. Hers may not be. And that is what we do as humans. We look out for one another. I want to quickly point out to a camp in Georgia where there were 627 attendees, which included students and staff. It turns out that there were 5 cases that arrived there, 2 asymptomatic, even though everybody had to have a negative test before coming to the camp. The 5 cases were in 5 separate cabins, but by the end of this ordeal, 351 were infected. That's 52%. This is information and data that is found online, and I can very easily give that to you. Also, stated by Dr. Caitlin Jatina, she has a master's in public health and PhD in epidemiology, assistant professor in public health.
Thank you, Martha. Your time is up.
Okay, thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Our next public comment is from Sarah Murray.
I crossed some stuff out just so we have more time because I would like more people to speak. So there is, I wish I could show pictures on here, but there is on the side of the mask box. I just wanted to point this out. You might have seen this. It says this product is an ear loop mask. This product is not a respirator, and it does not provide any protection against COVID-19 or other viruses. Also, the CDC, when they came out with guidelines for vaccinated teachers and students. They did say, I wish I could show it again, but I can't. All of this may be proved hard to implement. And that is why the CDC is advising schools to make decisions that make the most sense. Also, the guidance is really written to allow flexibility at a local level. The pleas here today, happening all over the country, really, they are not stating that no one should wear a mask. It is simply stating parents, teachers, kids should have the personal choice. That's what I hear tonight as well. As a teacher, I never thought the day would come where I would have to cover my face at work while teaching children. Being at a Title I school where my class is 50% or more English language learners, my students rely solely on my face sometimes. Watching my mouth move when speaking is imperative to their learning. English language learners rely on my speech, but they also rely on my facial expressions, especially those who do not speak any English yet. I had 2 of those last year. Have you read a chapter book to children while wearing a mask? Have you explained how to multiply fractions while wearing a mask? I have for the last 6 months. Making a teacher cover their face while teaching students is like asking a surgeon to perform surgery without hands. It's simply not effective. In June, students no longer had to wear masks outside. It does not make sense at all that students can play outside with other students and not wear masks, but have to come inside and put on masks. Why can we play sports? Why can we go to Disneyland or Six Flags without masks? Why can we attend concerts indoors or outdoors with a mask-free population? The basis for wearing masks does not make any logical sense. You have the power to make choices for our district, for our children, for our employees, regardless of what mandate or guideline is set. I think I put possible, yes. Possible resolutions could be allow plexiglass at the desks so we don't have to wear masks, or keep students 3 feet apart, but you said earlier we can't really do that.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next public comment is from Ben Shira, sorry.
My name is Beck Shala. That's my American name. I moved to this country a few years ago, same as your great-grandparents and everybody. My parents moved over here for one reason. The best country in the world for my kids and the freest country in the world. 2.5 centuries ago, the founding fathers created the Constitution, which they give people the right to choose their politicians, to vote them in. But if those guys went back to their words, they gave them another right. Get rid of them and bring the guy that's going to fight for you. So a few years ago, you guys got elected, knocked at our doors, say, hey, vote for me because I'm going to fight for you. Well, now is the time to fight for me. Now is the time to fight for my children. That's why I raised them in this country. And if you guys don't think I'm doing this fight, then hey, step aside and let somebody else do this fight. If our founding fathers could realize this 2.5 centuries ago, oh my God, what the hell are we doing now? Then we cannot figure that out. That, hey, the best country in the world, leave it to the people. Don't take it away from them. I get it. You guys got your job to do, but your job is to fight for me, for those guys' kids, not for the insurance company. Just for your information, statistically, the last year and a half, the America was locked down. The biggest billionaires raised their value, the money by 21%. Yeah, it's not for me, it's for them. So please, listen to us, fight for us. Let my kids go free. Let all their kids go free. Let them go to school. Let them play with their friends. Eat dirt. Eat bugs. That's what kids do. That's what I did. That's what you guys did. Natural immunity. It's the best immunity in the world. The best. this COVID, this disease, this boo-boo escaped a 5-star laboratory. I never been there, but I'm sure that people to go there, they covered head to toes with who knows what. And this boo-boo escaped the laboratory. You tell me this is going to stop that disease to come to me? Please, people. For the people, by the people. You guys have a good evening.
Okay, continue, please.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Heidi Harmon.
My name is Heidi Harvin. I have 2 kids in elementary school. I did not prepare anything to talk tonight. My son told me before I came here that he wants to go to school. He wants to see his friends. He wants to see his friends' faces. He wants to see his teachers' faces. He's 9. He said that masks don't help him learn. He's not learning anything. It makes it harder. Superintendent, I watched you all night. You've touched your mask all night at least 30 times. Your glasses were fogging up. You're wearing it underneath your nose. As an adult, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but as an adult, we can't wear masks correctly. How do you expect my 7 and 9-year-old to wear masks? Like he said, we're touching things. Kids touch everything. They touch their face. All those germs they're sticking to their mouths, and it's making things worse. My kids have asthma and allergies. That is harmful to them to wear these masks all day long. That's trapping all this dust and germs in their mouths. I'm asking you to please let us choose. Let me choose for my family and my children. I don't care what you're doing. It is your personal choice. I should be able to raise my kids and choose what's right for my kids because they're my kids. I also want to touch base on ESL learners. I am an ESL individual. Sign language is my first language. I rely heavily on facial expressions and hand gestures, and I wouldn't be able to communicate with others without using facial expressions. How do you tell stories to kids without facial expressions? How do you know if a kid is sad or not feeling well without seeing their face? Teachers are here to educate, and also they're mandate reporters, and they're here to keep an eye and help us raise our children. And you guys can't do that if you can't see their faces. You don't know what's going on, and the kids don't know what's going on with you guys as well. So please let us choose what's right for our families. I'm asking you, it should be our choice. And those who want to mask their children, that's fine. Go for it. That is your own choice. So I'm asking, please let us choose.
Thank you. Our last public comment is from Brooke Stanley.
Hi, I debated all night whether to speak or not. So first, I would like to say thank you for the time that you put in. I am also on a board, and I understand the time commitment and stress of making these decisions. However, I also want to remind you the school district members are elected into their positions by the public because we feel that you guys are the best fit for who we feel is going to fight for our children when they need to be fought for. Right now, I'm asking you to stand up and fight for what's right. Families should have the ability to make the choice for their children and not the district as to whether masks are appropriate or not for each child. At the end of last school year, there were many concerned parents and teachers regarding going back to school at all. While I understood their concerns at the time, now the vaccine is available for anyone 12 and over. So families and teachers that are concerned about the virus should be fully vaccinated at this point. My child should not need to suffer in a mask for 6 hours a day because somebody else's fear. It should be my choice to send my child to school in a mask. I have the luxury of not living with somebody that's at risk, so I should not have to suffer. If I didn't have that luxury, then I would mask my child if I felt the need to do so. It's a choice that I should be making as a parent. I also was going to mention what Heidi pointed out regarding the fact that you're all wearing these masks. As you sit here discussing it with each other,
talking, you're constantly tugging at them because they are frustrating. They're not comfortable. A child, my 7-year-old could barely sit through class every day, came home in a new mask because hers wasn't comfortable. She's not learning anything. She's focused on her mask. She's not focused on her education. My son has been a GATE child the last 6 years. Not only does the school not offer him any programs for being a GATE student, even though you guys are getting extra funding for his label, but he has now suffered tremendously, both educationally and mentally, with his anxiety of all of this. He lost the resources with the school counseling and with the school social worker by distance learning, and now is isolated at home during all this. So now he's starting the CAFRE next year. He's going to be in school with all these new students, not knowing anyone, and he's not even going to see anyone's face to be able to meet a new friend. How do you expect these children to be happy and want to go to school and want to learn? We need to help our children thrive to be better adults when they grow up instead of terrified and want to just shelter in place and not do anything. It is time to stand up. It's time to stand up for our children and allow us parents to make the choice for what's right. Thank you.
All right. Well, first of all, again, thank you all very much for being here tonight. And again, thank you very much for expressing your comments publicly. It's very much appreciated that you share that with us. At this time, I will turn this over to the rest of the board for questions or comments. We should probably check in with our board member on Zoom too. But does the rest of the board have at this time any questions or comment on this item?
Hey, the question of the insurance. So, like I said before, we've had the mandatory, CalOSHA is mandatory, CDC is mandatory. There's guidance. The term guidance is out there. So the question is for me is what exactly is mandated for our district and what is guidance?
So what is mandated is requiring masks. That is mandated. It's mandated by CalOSHA for employees who can be fined by CalOSHA. Mask mandates are required by the federal government for federal funding that we are receiving. We are just received $8 million ESSER funds, and we had to submit, it's in our board packet tonight, submit a template stating that we would require or we would follow CDPH guidelines. Where the district does have some discretion is how you enforce it. So a district can make a choice of, having somebody stand at the gates and not let a student in if they have a mask. Have a police officer out there. I mean, a district can do that if they want. We're not saying, sorry, I'm just giving some examples of where we do have choice. They're not telling us how to enforce it. And again, it is not our intention as a district to have someone policing out in front of our school. But we do have to come up with a plan and be consistent on our plan for how we would enforce it.
So my second question would be with the insurance. Somebody earlier had stated something about getting in writing. What exactly do we have from the insurance that's saying that if we don't mandate the mask, they will not cover us?
We do have a legal memo from our school's insurance authority that states that it is a mandate and that we risk losing our liability. We risk them not providing insurance coverage. There's definitely, as we know, there's different opinions with this. There is for example, say We were not requiring masks. We were not following the guidelines. And say a student became sick at school, they had to, of course, you have that choice to sue the district. And our school insurance authority is telling us that they would not support us legally or provide the insurance coverage if this was a case and we weren't following the guidelines.
Excuse me, but public comment has closed. Public comment has closed. This is a public meeting of the school board. The board of governors is now speaking on this topic. Your time has ended. If you continue to insist on speaking out and interrupting this meeting, you will be asked to leave. Now, I understand your passions. I understand you care about this subject, but understand very clearly, this is a legitimate public meeting, and we're conducting the public's business as the representatives of the public. So at this time, if you wish to speak, you still need to fill out a card for public comment, and then we'll consider addressing that at the end of the meeting. But the time for public comment has ended, and shouting out and interrupting this meeting does nothing to forward our progress. So I understand your enthusiasm. I certainly understand how you feel about this, but you do not have the right to interrupt this meeting any further. I want to be very clear about that. We allowed you your time to speak, and now this is where the board asks questions to try and get further answers and further information. And that's really what we're trying to do, is discuss this and make sure that we're getting the information that we need. So please allow us now, as a board of governance, to do our job and to continue to ask the questions on behalf of you, which is what we're trying to do. So please and thank you. And again, I appreciate you all being here. And this may be new for some of you. And trust me, it's new for some of us to be back in the public like this. So let's just all take a deep breath and relax and continue this discussion, because that's what this is right now. This is a discussion, and we're going to continue. So again, please finish and answer the question.
Yes, we can provide, if the board would give us direction to do that at a next board meeting, we can provide what we have received from our insurance company in a board packet or report. We definitely can do that.
On behalf of the board, I will ask that you present that at the next board meeting.
So my third question would be, if I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but like say exam choice, how can we come about having a choice without getting dinged, without getting reprimanded, without getting
A choice in
a choice of like mask, so the kids can have their choice, so parents can give their kids their choice of a mask or no mask.
what we could do, the board could direct the district or the superintendent to draft a letter of communication to the lawmakers, some that we provided the information. We have seen there are some districts across the state that have developed letters where they are urging for local control related to not just enforcing masks, but other areas as well. That is direction the board could give us moving forward. We do have a special board meeting scheduled coming up here in a couple of weeks. It's more of a training session for our board is the agenda now. We definitely can add items to that if that is direction from the board.
Agreement on that direction.
I can go for direction.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I think there's concurrence. We'll take that direction.
Okay, we will move forward with that and we will have it as an agenda item, a possible letter. Is that what the board would like, a letter? Would you like that to the lawmakers, the governor, and what we posted? Okay, yeah, for local control. Local control. Okay, we will work on that. And
A couple things that I
kind of noted down. Besides the masks, because everything talks about like layering strategies of protection. The plexiglass at the desk was brought up. I mean, could we have it on the agenda next meeting to discuss other alternatives to simply just the masking?
We could. The only two alternatives right now are ones that we spoke of, a mask or a face shield with a drape. Those are the only two alternatives, or a medical exemption. Right now, an alternative of putting plexiglass on a desk or a table in lieu of wearing some kind of face covering is not part of the guidelines. We do have plexiglass in a lot of our classrooms, especially in kinder, TK. But even with that, it doesn't mean that the mask requirement goes away. And that is the CDPH guidelines.
Another thing that I heard that, I mean, honestly, you know, you can be on one side or the other, but it's going to take all of us working together to get our kids back to, you know, the new normal. Well, I mean, everything is a new normal. And if you go back in history, there's going to be a post-COVID. I have teacher friends in Elk Grove, and I know kids were sent home and then now have tested positive. I think something that we can all do, I'm a parent myself, is screen at home and make sure that if they're sick, we keep them home, which, you know, it is, but unfortunately sometimes it doesn't happen. I think we need to all move forward with what we can do. And if we want to have a discussion at the next board meeting and have an agenda item.
So I certainly agree that we can agendize that. We can certainly continue to have the discussion. And then in regards to discussion, I can't really see the board there, but I'm just curious as to whether or not trustee Gracie Wilson is asking to speak or not.
I just unmuted myself because my big question from my home where I'm zooming in is, what do we do about the asymptomatic children that test positive for COVID who have no symptoms? Are parents going to be proactive and get their children, vaccinated or not, tested should there be an exposure? How much trust do we have? It's great to screen from home, but if there's no fever, no cough, no runny nose, no nothing, and you know of an exposure, my kid doesn't have symptoms. She goes about her business and spreads it all over the place. Just generally speaking, it's a scenario. That's a concern I have.
Okay, thank you, Gracie. Any other discussion, questions? No? Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. And if not, we'll move on to item 2 of reports. Dual language immersion DLI program survey and proposed time.
Okay. Ms. Miller, would you like to take a quick stretch break before we move on to the next agenda items, or keep going?
No, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
All right. We still have lots to cover tonight, so
Okay.
let's go ahead. Actually, folks want to leave, then we'll go ahead and pause for a minute here and just allow folks to leave. Please continue.
Thank you, sorry. We have one more item to follow up on LCAP 1 agenda or report number 1, the return to in-person instruction plan, ESSER 3. And Donna Whitlock will summarize that for us. Thank you, Donna.
Okay, thank you. As Superintendent Yacht mentioned, we did receive approximately $8 million in federal funding, emergency funding. And part of the requirement is that we needed to submit a safe return to in-person instruction, a plan. And I want to remind the board that as of February 1st, we were required by the state of California to not only go to our stakeholders and get feedback, but to submit a COVID safety plan. And if you remember, we presented the Cal OSHA COVID prevention program, and we presented the school guidance checklist, both of which were approved by CDPH and Sac County Public Health and CVE. Well, this is the new requirement. This is coming from the feds, and this is for the federal dollars that we received. And so what the plan you have in your packet, what it's done is we were asked to amend our plan. And this plan in the packet, it goes over the health and safety policies and procedures that we have in place. It talks about the guidance that informed our decision-making process. And then one of the new questions asked that we talk about the continuity of services in case of isolation, quarantine, or future school closures. And I wanted to just remind you that our school board worked to approve the transitional reopening schools. And if you remember, it was based on the colors and the tiers, but we still are using that because that does allow us to pivot quickly and safely depending on the health conditions in California and the mandates. The last part is we needed to provide to the federal government how we would meet the needs of English learners, students with disabilities, and learners with diverse needs. And in June, you approved our new 3-year local control accountability plan, which focused on the social, emotional, academic health of our children. And so in this plan, it talks about the social, emotional services that we do have in place. Full-time counselors or social workers at each schools. We're working on a multi-tiered systems of support, the registered behavior technicians, developing a student wellness center at McCaffrey. And we're actually looking at small mini wellness centers at some of our elementary school. There'll be staff training, and we're also offering additional services, counseling services to our students. So that in a nutshell is the plan that we are submitting, and we needed to do it 30 days from the receipt of our assurances for our ESSER $3. And so this was submitted, and we wanted to bring it to you as a report today. Lois, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, thank you, Donna.
Yeah, thank you very much. That is that all here.
Oh, one more thing, I apologize. It is posted on our website, but that's really important so that the public are able to view it and provide feedback.
And we're on the public, or we're on the website, public report. Just that.
It's under the tab on the front page that says COVID-19 prevention plan resources.
Thank you
It's very, very prominent.
Okay, now we're ready for item 2.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
We have dual language immersion program survey and proposed timeline. And Ms. Whitlock will also present us for us tonight. I think it was way back in 2019 and 1920, we presented a report on the California Global 2030 initiative. By 2030, the goal is to have 50% of our students graduating from high school bilingual, at least bilingual and biliterate, at least in 2 languages. For 30 plus years, over the time that both Cleo and I have been in the school district, we've had a bilingual program, a transitional bilingual program that allows our Spanish-speaking students the opportunity to continue to learn in Spanish,
while they're acquiring proficiency in English. What the dual language immersion program would do, and there are many programs that are established in California and in Sac County. What the dual language immersion program allows is that all the children in the classroom would have the opportunity to acquire two languages. If your primary language is Spanish, then you will be acquiring English at the same time as you're learning in Spanish. If you're an English only student, you will be learning Spanish as you acquire Spanish as you continue to learn. It would be a preschool through 8th grade, and then we would tie it in with our high school. And so you had asked last year to bring an update on where we're at in the exploration. So I provided you with the timeline. I did want to say that there are several models for dual immersion. Only one model is the 50-50, 50% in Spanish or the target language, 50% in English. But there are other models that we're going to be exploring. The 90-10, for example, 90, in kindergarten it would be 90% Spanish, 10% English, and it's it decreases as they go up in the grade levels. On the timeline, I think first and foremost is that we really do need a dual language immersion. We need a professional outside consultant that has experience in helping to develop these programs that can help us. Specifically, the board had asked that we begin with a feasibility study to look at our schools, look at the demographics, look at the needs, what are the thoughts and feelings of our parents and our staff members. And so in the packet, you do have a draft parent survey and a draft staff survey that West Ed helped to develop. And we would like to begin our feasibility study by presenting the parent and staff survey this fall. The other couple other highlights is, and we are actively looking for a consultant. I've spoken with West Ed, which is nationally known consultation for education, and CABE, the California Association for Bilingual Education. I have a meeting with them next week because we want to make sure that we get someone that's very knowledgeable in the planning and capacity building. I wanted to highlight that this is summer vacation and our teachers are off contract. There was the opportunity through a grant, James B. McClatchy Foundation, for teachers to go to the dual immersion teacher academy. Eight full day Saturday sessions. I sent that email out to all of our BCLAD or bilingual teachers, whether they taught, in the bilingual program or not, and I hope maybe someone would answer. I immediately within that first day had 5 teachers answer saying that they wanted to sign up and commit to 8 Saturdays in the year to go through this academy. So I think that is very positive news. The other one I wanted to highlight this year are the team visits to a dual language immersion successful classrooms. We have Joe Cerna in Lodi, which is an established program. San Juan in Sacramento has an established program. Davis and Woodland. So we will be making some visits. For our board, what we'd like to do is by December, January, we'll come back to you with a full report, full update, for our feasibility study. I think that's it, but I'm excited and the opportunity for all of the children, for our families who want to learn both languages. It's that opportunity now, regardless if you're an English speaking student or a Spanish speaking student, you both can become bilingual. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm just curious. Do these children normally remain in a cohort, or do they move to different classes, or how does that normally work in terms of?
There should be a strand within a school, and to begin with, in transitional kinder, you wanted to begin with at least 2 classrooms.
Okay.
And even though, say, there's 4 kinder classes in a school, say 2 of them are the dual immersion and 2 are the English immersion classrooms, they still need to work together as a team because it is important that they, whether you're learning in Spanish or in English, you are together as a team. But those 2 dual language cohorts will move together. Now, when they get into 4th grade, it goes from say 20 to 1 to 30 to 1. And there is going to be attrition, kids moving, away. And typically after first grade, you don't enter the dual immersion program. You need to enter from the ground level at kindergarten. And so by the time you move into fourth grade, with the experiences is that they typically become one classroom. So they are remaining together in the same cohort.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, then why don't we move on to item 3, independent study guidelines.
All right, thank you. With the passage of Assembly Bill 130, we have a new policy related to independent study that is an action item for the board later on in the agenda. I will just highlight with this report some of the changes to this program and how our district plans on implementing an independent study program. We are offering the Bright Future Home Learning Academy for any family or any students that would like to be in the independent study program. And this law is just for the 21-22 school year. Parent notification, we are required to notify parents of the opportunity to enroll in this program. And we also have to have a student parent educator conference meeting prior to a child enrolling into the program. We are required to provide a transition plan. Say if the child enrolls in our program or independent study program, say they're in the program for a month and they choose to come out of that program and go back to a regular classroom setting. We have 5 days in order to find a place for that student at a school. There's a requirement for daily live and synchronous instruction. Independent study now has to have, for kinder through grade 3, has to have daily synchronous instruction. And for grades 4 through 8, you have to have a combination of daily interaction and at least weekly synchronous instruction. We have to have written agreements in place that provide technology for a child to be in this program at home. And we also need to provide a written agreement on the assignments the child will be responsible for, how the child will be graded, the support that we would offer to them if they were not excelling or performing well in an independent study program. Finally, with this new law, there's a lot of documentation. The teacher that runs this program would have to document the time they are providing live synchronous instruction. They have to document assignments, grade books, and student participation in the program. And there will be a new auditing process for the 21-22 school year just based on this new independent study program. And again, later on in the agenda, we have a board policy that we are required to have adopted before we start this school year with a program like this.
May I add just a couple?
Yes, of course.
Just a few other details. Is currently we have 33 students, kindergarten, transitional kinder through 8th grade. Too many students for one, grade span for one teacher. And so we have a TK3 grade span teacher, and then we'll have a 4-8 teacher. That's Mrs. Lucchese, who we've already hired. It will be at Lake Canyon Elementary School. The one thing that we are offering that is not required in the policy is we're offering a blended program based on personal needs of the family. So children will be able to come on campus. They can do small group instruction, say reading instruction from, for support, additional math support. They may want to participate in music or PE. They're allowed to come onto campus to do that. So it can be a completely at-home program, or it can be a combination of a blended instruction on campus or at home. And so the phone calls I've been getting, I've really been voicing that it really is going to be tailored to meet the needs of the family. What it won't be at this time, because there are going to be 4 grade levels, per teacher, is the children will not be on synchronous learning 2 to 3 hours a morning. That there will be daily synchronous instruction for your K3. There will be daily live interaction for your 4-8. but there will not be that same amount of time, like for example, in the GLE or during distance learning, when the teacher was responsible for the majority of the learning and the instruction. In the independent study program, the parent is going to be responsible for the majority of the learning.
Thank you for bringing that up. That is a big change with this, the parents, and that's part of the reason why we are required to have a parent meeting prior to signing an agreement to be in this program. It is required that the parents are teaching at home as well to be in this program.
Any questions? Okay, we'll see what we may need another teacher. Who knows?
Okay, then let's move on to LCAP Group 2, item 1, 2020-2021 summer program.
Thank you. Hopefully this presentation will put a smile on your face with the student pictures. Ms. Mock, if you could please, maybe it's up there. We have a brief PowerPoint for you. I just want to thank all of our staff and our students, our administrators here in the audience who pulled off a wonderful, wonderful summer program. The first slide there, just a quick overview of the program. It was 16 days of summer fun. We operated at every school location through June 30th, and our special education extended year services concluded on July 2nd. It was a full day, 8 to 2 o'clock at the elementary sites and our middle school, and 8 to 11:30 at preschool. We had over 200 staff members that worked the summer program to serve over 1,300 students. I'll briefly go through some of these slides and these pictures. Some quotes. We love summer school. Can we do this again next year? I like summer school because we do a lot of fun things. I liked working in partners with people and building stuff with my teacher and to just have fun. These are student quotes. What I liked most about summer school was we get to do art. We had some teacher quotes. I'll just share the first one. From a first grade teacher, Danielle Goldberg, the summer program has given our students the opportunity to reestablish their social bonds and hone their academic abilities. It has truly been an invaluable experience for our kids. The next slide has a few more quotes. The age is not on these quotes. I'll share a couple. This one really got me. It is amazing. We get to play at recess. It feels like there's no coronavirus anymore. It's like normal school. It's so good. I love it. It's fun. I don't ever want to leave. And then we have a couple collages of pictures. There's a collage, and then we have a couple slides from, or a couple pictures, a couple quotes from our older students, McCaffrey Middle School. Summer school is great, and I hope I get to come next year. Criminal justice needs to be an elective for school. McCaffrey, they did a student survey, and it was very positive, and criminal justice came up a lot, that they just loved that class, so whatever they did there. And for the next couple slides, we have Jennifer Collier, our extended learning coordinator. If Ms. Collier would like to share the next couple slides, she was also instrumental and on campus every day, serving students in classrooms every day. Oh my goodness. I wish everybody stayed because this is really good stuff. So yeah, we had 74 engagement sessions, 11 different types, and I got to spend time with over 870 kids. It was just, we had such an amazing time together. A couple of the highlights is that we had these summer residencies partnerships with art organizations where professional artists came in for a series of sessions with the kids and the teacher. So the teacher not only was getting modeled how to instruct this art, they were learning right along with their kids. So it's just a really wonderful opportunity, which we're looking forward to working with Clara, Nancy Q, and the future for much more. There's a lot more opportunities, different avenues of art, where again, it's a twofer, where it's a PD and it's a live engagement instruction in their classroom. The teacher doesn't have to go anywhere. It's just really highly effective. But the highlight that just made my heart so happy was that 78% of the students said they would want to come to school more if they had these activities to look forward to. And what that means to me is that is a golden seal for engagement.
That means I'm motivated by something that I saw during summer school to cause me to, hey, I'm going to get up out of bed. I'm going to go to school today. Mom, let's go. So, yes, we're going to go to the next slide. The way that I gathered this youth voice really was we did a 5-minute survey. I gave it to every kid. We got a chance to ask things like, I learned something new about my imagination. I learned about creativity. This session was fun and creative. And again, would this motivate me to want to come to school? And again, I was really, the results were overwhelmingly positive. And for just that little 5 minutes to gather that, effectiveness, the results of the time together was really valuable. Next slide. So one of the offerings was Arts Imagination Station. This is a huge highlight. What I loved about this was not only did we have almost 90% of kids stay super engaged with it, it just loaded the imagination. They were creating in 2D and then in 3D. And then teachers were saying too that they wanted to use this in multiple ways in their classroom. So it was just like a win-win all around. In addition to that, we had Lego Creative Fuel. What can you not do with Lego? There's not much. So what I really loved when I was talking with the kids, they're like, how can we make summer school like regular school? Like, how can regular school be like summer school? And I was like, okay, there's lots of great ways that we can do this. And one of the best, really amazing things is those teachers who elected to have the Lego Creative Fuel, who didn't have access to Lego, were given a set of Lego and boards that they now have. That's in their classroom that they've had a chance to use with their kiddos and now have as a resource for the school year and forward. And the next slide. Little Bits, another one. This is the project that keeps giving. It was I think it's probably a couple almost 3 years ago that we received over 2,000 Little Bit kits. They are now officially used up. We have used every Little Bit kit except for those who are hoarding them away in their classrooms and hoping to use them in the future. But the kids they were able to open this box and use their imagination and build. And they went for it. There was little or no instruction. So it was really exciting to be able to see them do that part. And again, okay, so the Youth Development Safety Tower. This activity, and I would actually really love to bring this to the board with your permission and some study session if we would love to see how the safety tower works. It really works in any setting for any group of humans. And it really is based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs and what it means to have safety present in order for skill building to be achieved. And it's just highly engaging. The kids, every moment when it gets down to that part where you pull safety away and they get anxious and it falls every time. Inevitably, there's that student that wants to try to catch the tower, and then there's that student who is hurrying and building it back up again. So just knowing that this is how our kids respond when safety is taken away. They want to restore it. So that was very successful. Quite a few kids wanted to attend that one. So thank you so much for this time. I really appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank you, Ms. Collier. And our last two slides, Cleo Del Toro and Brianna, Director of Curriculum, will present these slides for us.
Well, I think the kids were just as excited as Jennifer was right now during summer school. We're very excited to report that almost 1,000 children attended our summer school program. Attendance was high from beginning to end. On the last day of school, we had almost 900 students still with us. Attendance was high, engagement was high, as Jennifer already shared. And on average, on the last day of school, we still averaged around 80% of the children in attendance. So it was a really, really good program. On the next slide, I just want to again highlight that when we're thinking about growth and academic impact, we plan to compare the spring 2021 and the fall 2021 math data for students who attend the program just to see the type of growth that was made. And then analyzing that data will hopefully guide us on how to plan for a summer school program next summer. Thank you.
Question real fast. How many students do we have during the regular school year?
We have currently a little over, we have 3,300. Yeah, so it's about a third that attended, yes. That's great. Yeah, they really came. Even to the end.
Any other questions? Can't see it. Grace, have any questions or comments?
No, I have no questions. I am just very happy that our summer school program was a success. And it was, I think I mentioned at the last board meeting, it was just fabulous driving my kiddo to school and seeing just the other parents and kids walking to school and going to school and happy faces on campus. And I'm just very glad that it was a success. And thank you to our administrators and our staff for and our district office for allowing this program to happen this summer.
Excellent. All right, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to other reports. Williams Uniform Complaint, fourth quarter report.
Thank you. So this is the quarter report for April through June. We have no complaints. No complaints were filed in the area of sufficiency of materials, facilities, or misassignment of teachers for this quarter.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll now move on to item G, routine matters, new business. The consent calendar. Any questions or comments regarding the consent calendar? There was one notable retirement.
Yes.
I didn't see any others.
Lots of new hires, 21 new hires for reassignments.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's excellent. Any questions or comments? Okay, if not, then do I have a motion to approve item 212.201?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you, Tracy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Wes.
Thank you. I have a motion from Board Member Tracy Skinner to approve item number 212.201, seconded by Board Member Cagle. Tom Silva.
Aye.
Grace Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-4-0.
Okay, that brings us to item 212.203. I'm sorry. Agenda item 212.203, public hearing of 2021-22 Education Protection Act use of funds. So we will open the public hearing on this item.
Sorry, thank you. This is an annual budget item that we bring to the board. The Educational Protection Act are funds the district receives through our LCFF calculator. This year, our district is projected to receive over $12 million in EPA funds. We cannot use these funds for salaries or benefits for administrators or any other administrative cost. And we are required to take to the board how we plan to spend these $12 million. In our budget for the 21-22 school year, we are planning to use these funds to pay for the salary and the benefits of regular education classroom teachers. And our current expenditure for our certificated teachers is almost $20 million. So $12 million of that will be covered through EPA funds.
Okay, at this time, do we have any requests for public comment on this item?
We do not have requests for public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Barr. In that case, we will move on to item 212.204, and that is board consideration of approval of the 2021-22 Education Protective Act use of funds. So then I guess, first of all, is there any questions or discussion on this item? Since it's already been explained. Okay. Then, in that case, I'll ask, do I have a motion to approve item 212.204?
I'll make the motion to approve for consideration of approval of the 2021-2022 Education Protection Act use of funds.
Thank you, Wes. I will second the motion.
Thank you. I have a motion from Board Member Cagle to approve item number 212204, seconded by Board Member Silva. Board Member Skinner, Tracy Skinner. Aye. Board Member Grace Wilson. You're on mute, Grace.
Sorry, it keeps hitting the mute. Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes 4-0.
Okay, next item up is item 212.205, board consideration of approval of the 2021-22 consolidated application.
This, the CONAP, as it's called, the consolidated application, it's used by the California Department of Education to distribute our categorical funds, which is our federal funding. And on the background, we list our Title I, which is our basic grant funding. Title II is for professional development, recruiting high quality teachers. Title III is providing additional funding for our English learners. And actually, there's two parts that you'll see in the CONAP. Title III for English learners, and then we also have additional special funding for our recent arrivals, our immigrant students. And then lastly, we have Title IV. It's provides a well-rounded education. There's Part A, Part B, and Part C. Part A is for professional development, to support the teachers in the instruction. Part B is for the safety and well-being of students. And then there's Part C, which supports technology and technology professional development. In the packet, you'll notice that the spring release for 2021, typically it's June, but because of COVID this last couple of years, the release has been held off a little bit. Spring 2021 is in the first part of the CONAP, and that's the application. And then I supplied you with a couple of additional pages on the table. So in the spring, we apply for funding, but in the winter is when we do our reporting. Since we don't report on it in the winter, what I provided you with was the winter 2021. And that's really interesting because that's where you get to see our 2020 allocations for the year. They wait until the winter because you have to look at the carryover, which are school sites. If they do have carryover, can't carry over more than 15%. That's redistributed. And then with the new funding, it gives us the new student counts for each school. It also designates if we have a school-wide program. Some districts, there's only several of the schools are Title I, but in our school district, we are district-wide Title I, which means those funds, even though they predominantly serve our low-income students, all of our students benefit from the federal funding. And then it also will give you the new low-income student percentages, which are funding for, I believe, for LCFF even takes that into consideration. So that's why you have the winter 2021, but then you also have the application for the new year. Are there any questions?
No questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. In that case,
Oh yeah, action approval is recommended.
okay, it is recommended. Okay. In that case, I will move to approve agenda item 212.205.
I will second.
I have a second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Board Member Silva to approve item number 212.205, seconded by Board Member Skinner. Wes Cagle. Grace Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes 4-0.
Okay, next item on the agenda then is item 202.206. And that is board consideration of approval to increase school lunch prices for the 2021-22 2022-23 school years.
Thank you. And I will ask our food services supervisor, Nick Swoboda, if he would like to speak to this item as well. In summary, this school year, 21-22, meals will be no cost for all students.
Okay.
But regardless of that, we still are required to propose a rate increase due to the state and federal reimbursement rates. So even though we are not charging students based on the new law for this next school year, we still have to update our meals, our costs for our meals.
Right, for students that may choose to have a second meal or off-site students that come in that are guests, we have to have a value. And so we have to increase a minimum of 10 cents to try to get to the 318, and our current cost is 225. My recommendation was to go to 250 because as parents, you think of lunch in quarter increments. So we can do 10 cents, but then if we did the quarter, it reduces change at the cashiering. Parents just think of lunch as 225 or 250. It could actually be 235. So it's my suggestion is to increase it to 250. But if in light of the community and finances, if you guys feel it's more appropriate to do the minimum 235, that's what we'll do. And yes, we are covered for this year under the seamless summer option. So it'll be the same, no cost to any families. And then with the upcoming 22-23 school year, we're working on the universal feeding for all students in California. And we don't know how that funding is exactly going to happen yet. So as that comes through, I'll talk to Lois and let her know. Any questions?
I have a question. Is reimbursement from the state based on our per unit cost as we establish here, or is the state have its own cost reimbursement?
So the state usually just gives the 0.24 cents or 0.244 cents. That's their reimbursement. The federal is reimbursed on paid or free or reduced rates. And then what they're saying for the upcoming universal is that we'll still claim as free, reduced, and paid, but that the state will reimburse us for the difference between what the feds give us for the paid and what the free rate is. But for this coming school year, everybody's just under the seamless summer and you get the free rate for everybody, regardless of lunch.
So then is that based on per student or per unit cost?
Per student.
Per student. Okay. Okay.
There's a calculator that's submitted to districts, and we put in our information, and that tells us if we need to increase rates or not. And so I think it was 10 cents. Is that right?
It's a 10 cents minimum. You can do more. And so last time we had done 30 cents, but it increased for 3 years. So yeah, we do have to do a minimum of 10 cents till we get the bill cost to 318. And that's at least currently. Maybe when we go to actual universal feeding, that may change.
Any other questions? But no, I do want to say you've been doing an amazing job, you and your staff and crew and all the school sites. What you've been doing for the last year is amazing. Probably with some of the first folks to really step up in the middle of this pandemic and resolve an issue and make sure that all of our students are getting fed. And I don't know if we can ever recognize you enough for that.
Well, thanks.
Sincerely appreciate that.
The summer program really emphasized with the one staff that did work, what they were here for, because to see the students coming in and actually eating the food that they were cooking and having that interaction, that gave it the boost to make it. They're all looking forward to next year being able to serve back in more traditional style.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Tom, you took the words out of my mouth. Much appreciation to all of the food service staff out there working in the rain with their umbrellas and pop-ups and in the sun. And you guys really stepped up. Much appreciated.
Thank you. And we have yard and custodial help too. They really stepped up and did everything. And social workers delivering food. It's been a whole team effort. So,
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that our transportation, that our buses were running food as well out to rural areas.
yes.
You know, and it kind of, you know, in the midst of, you know, I know we've heard a lot about children being in isolation, and it was kind of nice in the neighborhoods to see the kids walking with their parents, families walking to go get their meals, getting out of the house, just a little bit of socialization in the middle of what none of us have ever experienced before. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
All right, then do I have a motion to approve item 212.206?
I'll make a motion to approve 212.206.
Thank you, Grace. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. I have a motion from Board Member Grace Wilson to approve item number 212.206, seconded by Tracy Skinner. Tom Silva,
Aye.
Wes Cagle.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes 4-0.
Next item on the agenda then is item 212.207. And that is board consideration of approval of the 2021-22 expulsion panel members.
Okay, Ed Code 48918, it's already expulsion. Ed Code states that expulsion hearings may be heard by the board, or the board may appoint a panel of administrators to act in that capacity. And today I have with you the following administrators that we need to formally confirm to serve as expulsion panel members should the case arise. I'd like to say in 5 years that I have, been the director of educational services. In the last 2 years, we haven't had any expulsions. And prior to that, we did have a few, but know that it's every family's right to ask for a hearing, an expulsion hearing, or there can be an stipulated expulsion. And a stipulated expulsion is where the parent agrees that the child did commit the act. And so in the time that I've been here, the expulsions that we have had have been stipulated expulsions. But should the need arise, I'd like to present the expulsion panel members for your approval.
Just out of curiosity, when a board conducts its hearing, does it typically include everybody on this list, or do you just 5 random members, or is it everyone?
I should know the number. I served on one hearing, an expulsion hearing, and it's been about 10 years ago. You know what? Principals, maybe Ron, you've been an administrator. Do you remember what is we don't, all of the panel members do not serve on, on one. Is it usually 4 or 5? Just 2? Okay, because I only got to serve one time, so it's been quite a while. So it's only 2. So chances are, that they will not be serving on an expulsion hearing panel.
Any questions or discussion on this? If not, then do I have a motion to approve item 212.207?
I'll make the motion to approve 212.207.
Thank you, Wes. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Gracie.
Thank you. I have a motion by Wes Cagle to approve item number 212.207, seconded by Grace Wilson. Tom Silva.
Aye.
Tracy Skinner. Aye. Thank you. The motion passes 4-0.
Okay, Okay, moving on to item 212.208, board consideration of approval of the 2021-22 declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
Thank you. This is an annual item that we'll bring to you. And this basically makes you aware that we are facing a shortage of fully credentialed teachers. This declaration of need allows us to file for various emergency permits, and it also allows us to hire interns. So you have an updated declaration of need that should reflect one single subject teacher and one special education teacher. So we ask for approval of the updated declaration of need.
And what are the sites those two teachers are needed?
McCaffrey and Moringa.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? I have a motion to approve item 212.208.
I'll make the motion to approve 212.208.
Thank you, Tracy. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Wes.
Thank you. I have a motion from Tracy Skinner to approve item number 212.208, seconded by Wesley Cagle. Tom Silva.
Aye.
Grace Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
Next action item would be item 212.209. And that is board consideration of approval of one-time stipend for non-represented confidential and supervisory employees for summer school extended year programs. Superintendent Young.
Thank you. So we've talked a lot tonight about the success of that summer program. And of course, we know that it took the whole school system to pull that off. A couple months ago, the board did approve a one-time $500 stipend for our 12-month classified employees. And we would like to recommend for board approval to look at the same $500 stipend for the non-represented 12-month employees that supported our summer program. It would be a fiscal impact of $6,000. We're looking at 4 positions for confidential staff, 6 positions for supervisors and coordinators, and 2 director positions that would receive this one-time $500 stipend for the extra workload for June.
Where would the funds come from?
We would use our CARES funds, COVID relief funds, most likely ESSER. Same as we did for the other extra compensation that we paid teachers, administrators, classified staff for the June program.
This was just a case of a particular group that we overlooked because I think everybody else.
We did. All of the 12-month employees did receive a stipend. And for other employees that were not on contract during June, they received additional pay.
Any other questions? If not, then I will move to approve item 212.209.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Gracie.
Thank you. I have a motion from Tom Silva to approve item number 212.209, seconded by Grace Wilson. Wes Cagle.
Aye.
Tracy Skinner. Aye. Thank you. The motion passes 4-0.
Okay, next item on the agenda is item 212.210. That is board consideration of approval to change the November 24th, 2021 regular board meeting, the date of November 17th, 2021.
Yes, so this I think happens every year. Our regular board meeting is during the Thanksgiving holiday week, and so we are proposing to change the regular board meeting to November 17th.
That's pretty straightforward. Okay, then do I have a motion to approve item 212.210?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Gracie. I'll second. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. I have a motion from Grace Mawson to approve item number 212210, seconded by Tracy Skinner. Tom Silva.
Aye.
Wes Kegel.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes 4-0.
Okay, next item up is item 212.211, and that is board consideration of approval of board policy and administrative regulation, AR 6158, and that is in regards to independent study.
Yes, so this is the new law, AB 130, that we spoke about during the board report for independent study. This board policy for approval is recommended by CSEA. We are looking at a fiscal impact of approximately $60,000 to $100,000 because we are anticipating we will need another teacher to run this program. This fiscal impact could go up depending on how many families are going to choose this option because of the mask. At this time, it is increasing. I think Ms. Block said we were up to 33 students. And we do only have one teacher right now. We have posted for another teacher. There's a summary here of what we have put over in the board report. To be happy to answer any other questions that you might have about independent study. But again, this is a recommendation from California School Board Association to meet the requirements of this new law. And it is for the 21-22 school year only. I'm sure this time next year we will have to update the policy. Typically, it would be a first reading, but in order to receive apportionment for independent study and before we can actually begin the program, we need to have an newly adopted policy. That's why we were bringing it for your approval. Any questions on any of the? In blue, we did present the current adopted policy.
Any questions or comment? In that case, do I have a motion to approve item 212.211?
I'll make the motion to approve 212.211.
Thank you, Wes. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Gracie.
Thank you. I have a motion from Wes Kegel to approve item number 212.211, seconded by Grace Mawson. Tom Silva.
Aye.
Tracy Skinner. Aye. Thank you. The motion passes 4-0.
Now that brings us to item 212.212. That's the first reading of board policy 5146 in regards to married/pregnant/parenting students.
Okay, well, we do have a policy for married pregnant parenting students that was adopted in 2008, and it does not address 302, which was passed in 2015 and went into effect in January 1st, 2016. The new legislation requires all schools who have even one single lactating student provide accommodations for that student. And so this was brought to our attention, and it already is in law that we do need to provide it. So we are bringing the updated policy recommendation to you. As you can see, the current adopted policy was extremely short. So we're just we brought the SBA sample that we're recommending. And again, this is our first reading. So I'll bring it back to you next month. And if you have any questions.
I do have one question, just out of curiosity. Is there anything that that would preclude the student from using the same facility that was provided for an employee?
No, not if there were currently no employees on campus that were using for example, that room, the designated room set aside. You don't want to, you wouldn't have them use the same room as another employee. There was one on campus. But
So if we had an employee, a teacher, or staff, this use a lactation station, then we would have to provide a separate one for a student if that
you would want a separate private room, a private place that the student would be in. And I would say that, at this time on our campus, we do not have a room set aside for that. But, haven't had the need yet, but in the case that we do, we want to make sure we want to bring it to the attention, and we want to make sure that would be private for the student. I think also we want to make sure that if we had multiple, whether it were staff members or students that needed to use the lactating room, that it was available at all times for them. So that way it wasn't overlapping. Maybe they needed to use it at the same time. If the need arose and we had more than 1, 2 student staff, then we would have to look at adding locations on a campus.
Everybody for privacy. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. That was first reading. Okay, moving on to item H then. Are there any further requests for public comment for items that are not on the agenda?
There is one more request for public comment regarding a letter to the legislature regarding health guidance and local control that the board will consider at a special board meeting from Veronica Kaufman.
Thank you for hearing my additional comment. I wasn't prepared to make another one. Regarding the potential for requesting local control, I definitely think that you need to keep in mind, not only is that only 40% vaccinated, we were averaging approximately 15 new known cases. I will say known because it is an anti-testing environment in this town. Last week we had an additional 44. Okay, I would also note that Dr. Cohen, who I referenced earlier, who's the chief of infectious diseases at UCB, has indicated that 50% of the COVID patients he has seen is actually seen long COVID past. He had also indicated there's been an increase in MISC-C for children. So what I think you need to consider is that this is what a child vented looks like. Okay, what are you going to say to a parent? Pardon me. Who comes up here and because you have requested mass choice for other people to infringe upon my child's health and freedom, for a parent that comes up here and tells you that their child has been hospitalized, put in the ICU, or vented. This is what it looks like. You have that control. And I want to know how important it is to these parents who have all left. They want this freedom, this right, which is putting other children in harm's way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. There are no further public comment requests.
Thank you, Mrs. Black. Okay, board, any discussion on pending agenda items?
I just have a question. How is the job search going for Lois's replacement?
I had that question too.
Haven't found someone yet. So we've done one round of interviews and we did not select anyone. We interviewed 3 people. We only had 4 apply. So we have posted with Casbo. We went ahead and paid. It was $200 or so to post with Casbo. We posted last week. I don't think we have an applicant yet. So if we don't get an applicant here by the next board meeting, probably the next regular board meeting, I will probably consider bringing a consulting contract to the board to consider possibly school services doing a search for us. I don't have a fee for that, but it's probably going to be a couple $1,000s at least. But that will be the next step if we don't have any applicants going through CASBO.
I would also like to thank our technical crew for making all this happen tonight. Honestly, I think this microphone setup is better than what they have at City Hall. So you guys knocked it out of the park tonight. You enabled us to conduct our meeting as we are required to do, and I for one very much appreciate it. I appreciate the fact that we've had the opportunity to have an open and public meeting again tonight. It was very necessary, and I'm glad that we were able to do that.
I agree. And before we close, Mr. Silva, I just want to thank everybody for their public comment. I know most of our speakers are not here with us anymore, but I know it's emotional. I know it's a very, very heated, delicate topic. Everybody has different opinions, but I am glad that we did have it open to the public so we could see the emotions, see how people feel about this. It's not easy. It's difficult. And so I trust that we'll make the right decision as a governance team and encourage back the comments. And if everything goes well and continues this way, then I think we'll have another public meeting our next meeting is, continue being open.
Anybody else comfortable with that?
Thank you for allowing me to Zoom in as I could not be there in person tonight. I'm looking forward to our next meeting where hopefully, hopefully I'll be able to be there in person. So thank you. Love technology.
Thank you very much. Okay, if there are no other comments, this meeting is now concluded.